All right, we are live in the Facebook classroom. Hey guys, we'll let people kind of tune in here. Good morning. So this 10,000 session, we wanted to talk about mindset, and I think every person approaches mindset a little differently. So we have 3 different types of personalities here. So this will be a fun kind of conversation, but we wanted to specifically talk about your mindset as an agent, and then how do you help mold the mindset of your buyers or sellers? How do you inform them? How do you help them get the best mindset for the marketplace that we're in? So I don't really know where to kick off other than, like, if you're working with buyers, like, let's just go there, because that's really where most people are struggling right now, is with they have lots of buyers, or they know people who want to buy, but there's nothing to sell, and you're losing your mind, you're pulling your hair out. Buyers are pulling their hair out. Tracy, you were just sharing with me, because you're a pretty active realtor. You have a team over there on the east side of the state. Mm-hmm. What's your experience been with your team? How's their mindset going? How do you coach them?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to just setting expectations. And if you have buyers that have cash, if you have buyers that have 20% down, it's one conversation. But many of the times we're working with buyers who are, maybe first-time buyers. Maybe it's their second home, but they're realizing that their income has gone up. They can afford more home. But it's about setting expectations. And I always say, like, I was a cheerleader. I feel like I've been a cheerleader my whole life. I'm a cheerleader in real estate. I want everyone to win. I want my teammates to win. I want my clients to win. And so, yeah, it's difficult right now to be a cheerleader right now. But at the end of the day, it's really who I am. So you just have to keep going at it every single day, knowing that eventually, if you throw enough things into the air, not everything's going to hit the ground. Something's going to stick. Someone's going to catch a win. And at the end of the day, it's a win for your client. And when your client wins, you win. And so it's just, you could show, 10 houses in a night and, not win on one of those. You could write 5 offers in a week and not win on one of those. But at the end of the day, you have to keep the conversation going with your clients to just encourage them that the right house is out there, because you're not going to write 50 offers and lose 50 times. Eventually you're going to win. And, I think, Paul, you used the word grit, and I was thinking about a college graduation that I went to that talked about grit in college. And, for some people, the grit looks different, but some people know that the word grit really comes from a deep place, and you have to be really in it to win it. There is no short game here. It's a long game.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an interesting one. If you guys haven't watched this video on grit, you should. It's by Melissa Duckworth. Mm-hmm. She's the person that, really kind of coined the phrase, the idea and concept of grit, but mm-hmm. It's a great thing to look into. It's really going to help you understand the long game of how to keep your mind in the right space. Really, really quickly, I'll talk about grit real quick, because I think this applies to this topic. But the premise behind grit is that grit is a long, resilient, it's like this long-term sustained effort and focus. But it's not all consuming. But what she's discovered is that people who have this ability to commit to something, like whether that being real estate, okay, let's just use this job. They will outperform people with the highest IQs because they have this just internal drive and grit. It's like this simple concept, but she's trying to quantify it as a skill you can learn. So if you haven't, look it up. There's a really, really great, like 5 or 6 minute TED talk by Melissa Duckworth on grit. So that's all I'll say about grit, but check it out. Mm-hmm. Kim, you have been someone over the years that has been in leadership positions where you've run your ministry, you've had a ministry, and you've done things where you've been a broker. So tell us about how you, and you've had things happen in your life. So how do you develop mindset?
So one of the things that has helped me the most is learning how to, I don't want to say fail forward, but maybe even challenge forward, right? I think what I had to look at was, what's the alternative? So I've had challenges in my personal life, but those things are about moving those challenges forward. What can I learn? How can I learn? I live my life completely different now. So because of the things I've been through, my mindset is enjoy life every day. The moments are important. When my grandkids are here, my grandkids are here. Right. And so I think mindset is really important in life. And that's a big topic of how I've moved through that. But one of it is just a choice that what's the alternative? Do I want to get up every day and have a negative mindset? Here's what I say is, Kim, today somebody's going to sell a house, or today somebody's going to grow a brokerage. Mm-hmm. It might as well be you. When I would have the ministry, I would get up and say, someone's going to run World Harvest Church today, Kim, and you've been chosen to do it. So it's about that mindset every day when I get up. I get up every day. I go to bed thinking about this. I wake up thinking about this. When I talk to agents, I think about this and I say, okay, COVID, shortage in the housing market, prices sky rising. And here's what goes to my head. Where's the opportunity? Every day, where's the opportunity? I remember one of my friends said to me, I was going to go farm this neighborhood out in Texas Township. And I was like, oh no, I can't get in there because XYZ agent owns that. Mm-hmm. And he looked at me and he said, not everybody wants to work with her. Mm-hmm. Wasn't anything negative, but it was like my mind, he turned me around to say, whoa, wait a minute, I can get in this market as a new agent. Mm-hmm. And so I get up every day saying, how do we win? How do we, remember when we start escalation clauses, Paul? I believe we started those.
That was a new thing. We were like, what is this thing?
Yeah. So every day I am like, we have lists and lists that we can share with you. You can share with your client. We'll post some of them. But what can I do today to win? Now, let me just share just a really quick example. I don't sell a lot, but this weekend I was out in St. Joe area showing properties. They love the home. We wrote an offer on Monday. Amazingly, there were only 2 other offers. When does that happen? Mm-hmm. Want to know why I won? Because somewhere something was created, an opportunity, right? And this seller said, I'm not doing the auction game. Get your offer in. We're under contract.
All right. Congrats.
So I think we can put energies out there too, right? Mm-hmm. And we can have that mindset of winning, and we find a way. Somehow it just goes together, right?
Yeah. I think you guys, let's speak to this one real quick. What does someone do? Like, I'm just going to throw some examples, because we've had phone calls with agents who are honestly starting to wonder if they're even in the right industry, because they're like, I just can't get my clients in a house.
Yep.
So when someone's in that space, how do you encourage them? How do you help reframe your mindset? Like, let's just imagine you're in that space already. It's too late. You've moved beyond all the things you could do proactively every single day. And you're in that moment right now, feeling like, I just feel like I can't do this. I don't know how to do this. I can't win. Am I not advising my clients right? Am I a bad realtor? Do I not know how to negotiate? What am I doing wrong?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I think you're definitely back to the basics. I mean, you just have to go back to the very basics of doing business. And that's it, that the things you have to do. You're doing them, but in a difficult market, you just need to maybe you need to reframe that every single day, back to the basics, back to the basics. Mm-hmm. And it's like anything, you just don't give up. You just don't give up. And it may take saying the same thing every single day, 10 times a day, but the business hasn't changed. Just the amount of homes has changed. Mm-hmm. And the more things change, the more they say the same. No, they can't stay the same. They're going to eventually change, and your client will eventually win. And you just have to have the mindset to believe that it will change, because this business is not the same business that I entered into 9 years ago. And it will not be the same business next year.
Mm-hmm. I have a great example of that. I sold my niece's home last fall. They're living with family, love their family, but really don't want to be living with family, right? But they made the decision they wanted to get out of this little town they were in, and they sold. So one of the things that I've been doing is whoever I talk to, I just ask them, what do you have coming up? What do you have coming up? Once them, where's the opportunity? We have to think differently. We can't just put on the MLS and sit and wait and twiddle our thumbs. That's not going to work. We have to be talking to other agents, other brokerages. Amazingly, one day I'm sitting at our office in Portage, and Jen Copeland comes to the she goes, could you help me with the comp in Penfield? I was like, are you kidding me right now?
Yeah.
I have been scouring everything in Penfield, which isn't even in the Kalamazoo area. It's in Battle Creek. And so there's just some things, I think when you put it out there, I'm not saying it's fairy tale magic, but there is something to that, right? So we've been waiting for a month. We're finally getting in Monday night to see this home. And the other day she walks up, she goes, I don't know how I'm getting all these things from Penfield, but I got another one coming up. What do you think? So that's just, I want to share with you the positivity that you can, that's just a practical example. Now it's not all magic, but here's the other thing. If I were an agent and I'm trying to have a paycheck and buyers aren't getting through, you know what I would do? And here's what I've done in the past and what I did for my buyers. I would send out a mailer, which they're not going to be your best line of defense. But if you take that mailer and you go knock on doors or you call, I think I would become a hunter, because if you get a listing, you get a paycheck, right?
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
That's a really interesting point, because like sometimes when I've personally been down, or I've had a tough, like, you know, I've been fired by clients. You never feel worse about yourself than when a client fires you and they say like, hey, I don't want to work with you anymore. That's like rejection, man. That just feels like you're like, wow, how did I lose this? Right. And I've had it happen to me. And you know, I think that how I've bounced back is it just takes one win. You got to get one more win under your belt. And it's like, boom, you're just back at it. You're feeling confident again. And we were interviewing Lori Zocco yesterday. And, you know, we asked her, we said, what would you do right now if you were a newer agent, you were struggling or whatever? She's like, Paul, I would just spend time with people. I would go out of my way I would be with people. That's what this business is. And so, you know, finding ways to recognize when your mindset's like feeling deflated or feeling defeated, and then finding those little things that you can do to spin yourself back into it. Maybe it's like go for a car ride, right? Roll the windows down. Call your aunt or your uncle or your mom or your dad, someone who can lift you back up, someone who can encourage you. You have to have, as a realtor, you have to have your support network.
Yes.
Seriously. If it weren't for my wife, Lindsay, oh my gosh. I mean, she's always like I walk out the door and I'm like, if I was going to do back in the beginning of the live streams, I was all nervous. I was like, oh, we got a live stream today. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can say anything that anyone's going to care about. This is all going to just, and then he's like, Paul, stop it. You're going to do great. And she would shake me and she was like, I believe in you. You can do this. And even those little things in my life would just like push me back up. So I think that one of the things we should do is find a network of people who can really want to see us win and want to see us do well and can lift us back up. Get rid of negativity. Get rid of negative things in your life. Get rid of negative self-speak, right?
It's so funny because I will show you the authors, because I'm not promoting somebody's book. This is what I read this morning. Empty out the negative. Okay, not the authors.
Promote the author. Oh, it's Joel.
Not promoting anything. But I read this. It's so easy. Look at it.
Yep. Yeah.
This is what I have to wake up to every day. Not that I have to, but I do. Because, and whoever, you know, we're not promoting a certain author, but I'm just saying this, when you just said empty out the negative, that's what I wake up to in the day. Is keeping it. And what do they say? You're the sum of the what is it, the 5 people you spend?
I think they say that you're a sum of your 5 closest people.
Yeah.
That's something that I think is underestimated, is surrounding yourself with people who are going to make you be the best you can be.
Yeah. Well, and interesting enough, it's amazing how you can have good things happening in your life, but how we allow the negative space to take up too much space in our life. Yeah. So that's why redirecting is really important.
So I'm gonna rattle off a couple of my bullet points here, and then I want us to move to client mindset. So some of the key words that I think of, and I would like each of you guys to add to this too, if you can think of anything. I'll just read what I had written down. I was writing down words like resilience, right? Being able to bounce back. But you have to find ways to exercise resilience with your support network, whatever it might be. Grit. Lori Zocco said yesterday that early on she was encouraged to remove the mindset of being tied to your paycheck. Stop thinking about your clients as a paycheck. Don't think about this transaction as a paycheck. What happens when you think that way is you need the check more than you need the client to have a great experience. And the real truth here is when you focus on the great experience for that client, those checks will keep rolling. But when you get caught up in focusing and you zero in on, but Paul, I need to pay my bills next month. Totally understand that. I'm not downplaying the need for a paycheck, but I thought it was really good. It was insightful to say, focus on the relationship, focus on the outcome, and the checks will show up. Yep. The only thing constant in life is change.
Yeah.
So you need to embrace change. Don't fight change. Don't be one of those people that thinks change is bad, because change is here and change is only going to keep happening. The rate of change is only increasing. Mistakes are going to happen. Are you going to learn from those mistakes? Or are you going to dwell on those?
Right.
There's a difference between learning and dwelling and feeling self-sorrow. You know, learn from them.
Just a really quick to that. Yeah. This morning, one of my clients called me, and just exactly what you said. She said, Kim, if I would have known what I know now a month ago, she goes, I would have given more on that home. Right. So she learned, she goes, now I look back and think I would have offered more. So she learned from losing. So yeah.
That's what we do, right? Every day. Yeah. It's like, you know, I mean, it's an opportunity to learn something new. Give yourself a break, cut yourself some slack, try being a little more optimistic, and remove self-talk from your life. Yes. I know negative self-talk. It's not good. Anyone else want to add to that before we move on to how to help your clients have a better mindset or prepare for this market?
I just think it's really important what you just said is, and what Tracy's been saying, we are the cheerleader. And I have one past client friend that I sold their house to 20 years ago, and she texts me every day. And I can feel when she's in a spin. And I always send back something positive. I think we have to hold that ground for them. We have to hold, and the same with the agents. I know we have a lot of agents right now wondering, how am I going to make it in this market? Well, the truth is, as a company last year, even in a pandemic, 5-star was up almost 15% in transactions. It's possible, right? And I always say to myself, it might as well be me. And that's why I tell the agents, it might as well be you. It can happen. But it's like what we learned about the reticular activator system. When you tell yourself something and when you write it, your being will go out to make that happen. So it's really important to keep it positive, because all of a sudden things will just start to happen, right? Mm-hmm. By keeping that mindset, by saying the right thing, for looking for the opportunity. But if we just go down to the negative, we've all been there. It just keeps spinning the same. Yep. We just go further down, right?
Yep. Thank you.
I was just looking at the numbers that came from 5-star for transactions in March. And in my market, it was 3,408 transactions in March of 2021. Every one of those transactions was connected to a relationship. Mm-hmm. So without the relationships that you have with people, you can't be a part of that 3,408 number. So the relationships are the key to everything we do in this business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a great thing to fall back on. It's just like when in doubt, Tracy, you said, go back to the basics.
Yep.
This does not have to be a big, complex, out of control thing. This can be very, very simple. It's relationships. Absolutely. 100%.
Well, what you said, Paul, was also embrace the market. It doesn't do us any good to fight against it. Lean into it. One of the things when I lost my son in 2015, I had the choice. I could keep fighting against the reality of what had happened, or I could embrace it and let it move me mindfully into a better place. We get two choices, right? Mm-hmm. And so with this market, I live my life, it's so much better in his memory. And every day is my lesson was I learned how fragile life is. Mm-hmm. And so whatever it is in this market, embrace it and then use that. I go to my clients with positivity and say, here's my strategy. I'm with you. Mm-hmm. I've got your back. I have a whole list of things. I'm going to review these with you. And then you decide what you want to do. And what Tracy, you always say, we advise and they direct.
We give advice, they give direction.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And just tell them I'm here for you. And they're like, their level of confidence of going up $10,000 to win really changes from I'm losing 10,000 to that's it. That's all I have to go. 10,000, I get to win. Right. It's all about how we help them to see the perspective.
So early on in my career in real estate, I was still figuring this out, man. I was 22, 21 when I first got in real estate. I'm 37 now. But when I was first in the business and I was working really closely with Greg, because he was an active selling real estate agent back then, he kept telling me, he goes, Paul, when your clients have to ask you a question, when they ask you a question that you should have given them already, when they're the ones driving the questions and you're just answering questions, you're losing. Mm-hmm. You should be getting in front of them and thinking about ways where you can educate them, and you can proactively think about what they might be wondering about right now. And you should try and fill that with the information they might need. And so one of the things about this market when you're working with buyers and sellers, honestly, is that they don't do this transaction very often, right? This is a rare transaction for a lot of people. A lot of people are going to do this once every 7 to 15 years. Mm-hmm. And so this is like nerve-wracking. It's scary. There's unknowns, there's uncertainty. And also it's really tough. right now. So we have to get better. We have to get really good at explaining just the market these people are entering into and how they can best be prepared as a buyer and best be prepared as a seller. But when we don't properly prepare these people, how can they possibly have the right mindset for going up against 30, 40 other offers potentially if we don't give them a really, really honest look at how to develop or what the market we're going into and how to develop that mindset? So what advice do you guys have for realtors to create like clients with amazingly strong, gritty mindsets?
Tracy, do you want to go first?
Sure. I would say, first of all, it's understanding what type of pre-approval your client has. What did they come to you with? Did they have a lender? Okay. So if they came to you with a pre-approval letter, then that's the basis of your conversation, is understanding the market with this particular buyer holding this piece of paper. And this piece of paper might say conventional. It might say conventional 5%, 10%, 20%. It might say FHA. It's a government-backed loan at 3.5%. It may say an FHA loan. It might be a MSHDA loan, right? It could be a conventional product, but being funded through MSHDA. So it's understanding as a realtor, what do these terms mean? Okay, because they're really important piece to the key to getting the keys, literally. So I think the basis of your conversation needs to begin with that. And then from there, once your client understands their financing, and then what kind of challenges that type of financing might present in the market that we're in. So for instance, today's market, a conventional buyer in theory has a much easier time getting an accepted offers than say an FHA offer in today's climate. Now that doesn't mean an FHA buyer can't win, but it means that it's more of a challenge. So you have to understand these things to be able to communicate them to your client, right? This is all part of the relationship of trust. And the more that we get in front of this, as you said, Paul, the more we help educate our client so that they understand the challenges that we have as we represent them.
So can we talk about just that topic for just before we move on to the next one?
Sure.
Yeah.
So here's what I find is I've had agents tell me, I've worked with personal clients. So they come in with, say, an FHA, they need closing costs. So our job as their agent is to educate them, right? And to help them get in front of it. And so part of our job is staying in a positive mode, but moving them through to a winning position, right? And sometimes often, and it should be, having a great lender that you work with to also say the same thing as you is that, so what we're seeing our strategies. So maybe an FHA buyer, if they have the money or they could borrow from a parent or from a friend or grandma, move them into a conventional. Is that possible? Because that just took them up one more level, right? Can you pay your own closing costs? So part of our jobs as their counselor is to help them move through to win. And so I actually had this happen last year. Started out FHA, needed closing costs, closed with conventional, paid their own closing costs, but they won. The other thing would be, I'm hearing agents say they're getting HELOCs to help, instead of having 5%, or not our agents, I mean clients, instead of having 5% down, they're getting a HELOC on their current home so they can win. Or can you get into a 401k and get out more cash? Some, if they have it available, will pay cash from a family member and then go refinance afterwards, right? So these, just talking to lending, I'm hearing a lot of creativity just around lending. One lender called me and said, if you do X, Y, and Z, we can waive the appraisal. So it's like we have this big toolbox, and as agents, we need to be the master who knows how to pull out of that box to guide you. And this is just starting with just lending, right? Tracy or Paul, what else have you seen?
No, I think you're right. I think if you I mean, this is great advice to say, basically, like if you have a client who's coming to you with FHA financing, which it's doable, it's extremely hard, but there are agents who can get it done. It depends on the house. It depends on the situation. It depends on a lot of things. We all know it's one of the toughest offers to get put through right now.
Yeah.
Or if there's a way to, as you say, spend some time talking to that lender, run through a bunch of questions, talk to that client, because maybe if they understood just how difficult it was going to be as an FHA buyer, maybe that's the only way they can go. And if that's the case, fine, we're up for the challenge, right? But if there's a way where we can help position them, as you put it, Kim, where I can think, have you thought about this? Because it's going to increase your chances probably by like 90% that you can, win a house. It's going to be a big, significant change. Yeah.
Yeah, I learned something the hard way, which is oftentimes the way we have to learn, right? Something happens and then that causes us to have an aha moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I had an FHA deal one time. It was a $170,000 house. Okay. So a lot of times those are FHA. So we accepted an FHA offer. It was right as coronavirus was just happening.
Mm-hmm.
And the pre-approval letter said FHA. I called the lender to verify. Yes, you're pre-approved. But I learned this. FHA does not necessarily mean FHA. So there's a couple of different ways FHA get approved. There's a desktop approval, which means, like, let's say the buyer's credit score is 580. Okay. So they don't meet criteria for what they call approved eligibility. In other words, they go to a computer, they type in all the information for the buyer, it gets sent up into a cloud, and then lo and behold, it comes down with a piece of paper that says FHA approved,
Mm-hmm.
a direct underwritten approval direct from FHA.
Mm-hmm.
Then they have what's called an FHA desktop. That means I gathered all the papers from all these places, all the information from the buyer. Someone sat down and looked at them and then gave them a desktop approval. In other words, they don't meet the guidelines of FHA, but we've looked at things here. And guess what? That was the difference between really being able to get this closed and not getting it closed. Because in the end, because it was a desktop approval. So if you have an FHA buyer, make sure you have a directly endorsed FHA approval from FHA directly that you can send with your offer beyond the Huntington Bank little letter that comes or whatever. Because you know what, when I see that now as a listing agent, I know this one's getting closed because I know it directly came from FHA and the client's going to get to the closing table.
Yeah. The thing, I think the thing here about helping your clients, another way to think, I'm just going to bring up another thing here. So what I've oftentimes, you think about, Greg's got his little pre-flight checklist, right? My dad's loved this idea about the pre-flight checklist. We have it in the inside of .loop. You guys should look at it. Excuse me. But the interesting thing is he early on with that pre-flight checklist, that's what basically took in aviation, which took like, it like increased, like it decreased plane crashes by like some dramatic number, like 80, 90, 100% less crashes, right? Simply by running through this checklist. But the interesting thing was, if you take that analogy further, like you are the pilot of this transaction, right? Mm-hmm. They are looking to you as their advisor. You have more information. You're in the marketplace. So you have to be that pilot who's going to explain, like, hey, we have some turbulence coming, right? Hello guys, welcome from the cabinet up here. And he gives us a heads up, like, don't freak out. We're going to hit a little turbulence. This is how the real estate transaction feels. When you're a buyer, you're in this plane, you might be sitting in, you can't really see out the windows. You're just like flying forward, right? You need someone to be that pilot who's going to properly prep you to know what's coming next, what's happening now. Don't let my imagination wander. Don't let my imagination, was that a wheel going down? Was that a wing falling off? What was that? I don't know. Keep me in the loop. And so I think one of the things we can do to help our clients with having a better mindset is just communicate.
That's a great analogy. I think that just kind of sums up our whole show today. I think we're just kind of getting started on this. We have a lot more to say, but if we keep that in mind, that's my aha for the day. Like, be their pilot.
Be the pilot.
Because I have to see myself sitting in the plane going, okay, are we going down? Like, it's going like this.
I don't know.
You can look out, you can't see anything.
I got no idea what's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, in the aisleway, picture the aisleway. Let's go with this, but it's lit, but it's not like really bright lit, right? I mean, there's enough light in front of you, and our job is to keep the light in front of them, to give them enough light to keep moving forward and to see that, eventually the end is the keys. That's what we're all hoping for, right? So
we're all hoping a touchdown in Tampa, Florida.
Oh,
in the sun.
It's all sun and palm trees, right?
Yeah.
And they will win. I think that they will eventually win. It's just going to take some time. And I think the other thing is to share with them, we don't have a crystal ball. We know we're going to land in Tampa. We're on the plane, but in this market, we really don't know where we're going to land, do we? We're not really sure what tomorrow brings, or next week, next year, there could be, the prices could be even 10% higher, or they could start to level out. We really don't know. I think that's the hardest part right now, is we don't know what tomorrow will bring. And we give them as much advice as we can and keep them as you said, continue to pilot them through the stormy waters.
Yep. All right. So be the pilot.
Yep.
And what we'll do is we will, maybe what we can do here, guys, is we can share just some of our favorite little videos we've seen. Like we can share the Angela Duckworth grit video. We can share the books, some of the books that you guys are reading or whatever it is, podcasts, whatever it might be that can help you get your mindset right. Anyways, that will conclude our session. We'll talk more about this stuff, I'm sure. Yes. But if you guys are having any issues and you guys have questions or you're having your own mindset issues, give myself, give Tracy, give Kim a call, and we can do a Zoom. We can do a meeting. We can have a cup of coffee. We can do whatever we can to fill your cup back up, because that's what we all need, is we just need someone to help us fill our cup back up sometimes. So take advantage of that. Reach out to us, guys. We want to be there for you. So, all right. Have an awesome weekend.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Paul.
All right. See you guys.
See ya.
Bye.